You know, a cardinal and a blue jay, they're both birds, but neither one can fly right now.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am yours, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me, where's my lower third? There it is. Call me Sully. I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here as a host here of the Locked On Podcast Network. And this year, I'm hosting both Locked On MLB, and as long as they have me doing it, I'm also the host of Locked On A's. That's right, Locked On A's. So you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods or on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. You can follow Locked On A's at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. And you can find me. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. So you can follow me left, right, front, and center. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And our Janice Rochard is already here. He's an everyday Sully. He's already on the live stream right now. Hey, thanks everyone for the kind birthday wishes for yesterday. And I will go through the trivia question, which was on the day I was born. In 1972, May 14, 1972, the Mets defeated the Giants in a game on May 14, 1972. What Met player defeated the Giants with a home run on the day I was born? And a bunch of you know the answer, got it right. I'll go to Jason O's Fan 8, who said, "Happy birthday, Sully. The trivia could only be the great Willie Mays." And yes, that's right. Willie Mays was dealt from the San Francisco Giants back to New York in 1972, very early in the season. He began the season with the Giants, but then he was traded to the Mets, ostensibly to end his career where it began as a New York player. And in his first game as a Met, they played the Giants at Shea Stadium, and Willie Mays homered to give them, it wasn't a walk-off home, but he homered to put the Mets ahead for good. And Willie Mays beat the Giants, and my mom gave birth to me. It was a busy, crazy, wild day of baseball, and I talked a lot about the A's and their inability to score a run, and the fact that the Astros have dusted themselves off and are getting themselves back into the playoff hunt. And some teams are starting to assert themselves. The Phillies are truly they're nearly 20 games above 500. I mean, that's remarkable. And the Rangers are starting to dust themselves off and play a little better. The Mariners are starting to look better and better. And you just got to see the Giants held their own today with a victory against the Dodgers. They're not going to be swept out of town. But I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit that I teach during the day. I'm a teacher in Pasadena High School. And during lunchtime, I have one kid specifically in my class. Actually, I have two kids in my class. Two of my students are very big baseball fans. And most of my staff, of my teachers' aides, everything, are all big baseball fans. And so during lunchtime, I put on the Orioles versus the Blue Jays game. And I had it on. It was a very good game. And we got to see, projected on my whiteboard during lunch, the end of the game. And if there was anything that's basically epitomized what the Toronto Blue Jays season has been up to now, it's that moment. The Blue Jays had a 2-1 lead thanks to a double by Bo Bichette. And then it just was a battle of the bullpens. Bradish only pitched 4 innings for the Orioles, but the bullpen pitched 5 shutout innings. And then for Toronto, Kikuchi Struck out 9 and 4 in the third innings, but man, he threw a lot of pitches. And threw 88 pitches in 4 in the third innings, let up 6 hits and a walk, but only let up 1 run. And Pop, Cabrera, Garcia, Maiza all let up they all held them scoreless. And then Romano comes in to be the closer. And with a runner on, the Orioles sent Adley Rushman up to the plate. He was a DH today. And he hit a fly ball to right field. At first, I thought it was a pop up. And then I thought it was going to be a double. And Westbrook was already on base. And then you saw it hit the top of the wall and bounced over it. If it was a foot more in towards the field, it probably would have been caught. But it was just bounce, walk off homer. I very rarely have seen a home run that barely a home run. It just bounced off the top of the wall. The Orioles win. The Orioles, who a lot of people have picked to win the pennant. I picked them to win the pennant. The Yankees, by the way, are playing very well. And if you notice that Aaron Judge is waking up, that's must be terrifying for all of baseball. But the Orioles wound up winning this game against the Toronto Blue Jays, and with that, the Jays lose again. And if you take a look right now at it's too early to look at the standings, but I'm going to look at them anyway. Toronto's in dead last place. They're 9 games behind the Yankees. But not only that, they're 5 games out of a wild card spot at this point. Now, there's more than 2/3 of the season ahead of us, of course. But when you consider that they're not playing well, and the wild card teams right now are teams like the Twins and the Royals and Baltimore right now, but they're beatable teams. But Toronto just hasn't been able to get anything going. And I did a podcast about a month ago saying the Blue Jays need direction, and they need to change direction like now. Now, a lot of people criticize me, and I got a couple of comments. I have that old episode that came out on April 13th, almost exactly a month ago, where I said they got to change the manager. This is crazy. And more than one. Big John 08865 says, "Isn't April 15th a little early to be discussing managers getting fired?" No, it's not, because I was talking about it the year before. I've been talking about it for multiple years now that they need to fire the manager, but something needs to happen, because right now, every single article you read about which teams are going to be selling at the deadline revolve around, most of them revolve around Toronto, saying like, "Oh, what should they do? Should they maybe package off, maybe heaven forbid deal away Vladdy Guerrero Jr., or maybe trade away Kikuchi, or maybe basically do a rebuild?" Do a rebuild? Didn't this team just get together? Vladdy Jr. is only 25 years old. Bo Bichette's only 26. Alejandro Kirk is only 25. And Alek Manoah, who had to be sent down after his Cy Young caliber season a few years ago, had to be sent down to find himself. Well, he came back and pitched pretty well his first game out, and he's only 26. It's not like this is an ancient team filled with players who are all washed up. Isn't this an indictment on the management, on Mark Shapiro, on John Schneider, the manager, that they would have all these players, all these talent, and bring in Kikuchi, bring in Gosman to the team, and wind up trading away Teoscar Hernandez to bring them some bullpen depth? To do all of this, and at the point where things should start to be fixing together like the Rubik's Cube, that they should have been able to, they should have been able to be a division contender last year, when both the Red Sox and the Yankees decided to set last year out. But this should be a team that is gelling, Notice I didn't say gel together because you can't gel apart. This team should be gelling and looking. This is the time where they're going to make their big push to a championship. Instead, they're going to put two sticks of dynamite and blow them up unless they go on a big, huge, long winning streak. And the fact that they've lost their last 7 series makes you kind of sort of think they're not about to go on a great run right now. And if that's the case, and they're going to have to rebuild, I mean, this is why I was saying they have to make the change now, because I thought they were going to make the change after the 22 playoffs. I absolutely thought they were going to after the 23 playoffs. Both times the Blue Jays didn't win a single game, and their mismanagement in the postseason was botched. Now, whether it was botched by Schneider, the field manager, or Shapiro, the general manager, or the president, or whatever the hell his title is, it doesn't matter. They have talent on that team, and they are lifeless. The lineup construction is bizarre. They keep leading off freaking George Springer, who's awful this year. Your on base percentage is 273. You shouldn't be the leadoff man. The weird roster construction and the fact that these players, there's no power on this team, and there's no fire on this team. And Chris Bonner says, hey, hey. But something needs to be done. And if they're going to blow the team up, this is if I were the owner, I'm saying, then I need a new GM, because I don't trust this GM to build this team, to build a new team if he can't put this together. But I mainly took a look and I said, it looks like they have the ingredients. It looks like they have the players. And Schneider, as I said before, as I said a month ago, as I said last year, that he is there mainly because he was the minor league manager of Guerrero and Bichette and a lot of them. But maybe it's time for some other spark on this team. It stinks because the Blue Jays should be a powerhouse team with all this talent and be the team of Canada. I thought we were going to have what we saw in the late 80s, early 90s happening again. Instead, we're not even getting what we got in the mid 2010s when they got to a couple of ALCSs before tearing the team down. They need a new direction. They need and they can't fire the whole team. And if you don't want to change your general manager, try a manager and see if it'll spark this club. Because as I said before, and I say it again, there's talent on this team. There's terrific talent on this team. But there's nothing that resembles flight. And I don't want to say, it's a lack of desire or something, but something isn't clicking with this ball club. And if they're going to blow it up while they still have potential superstars in their prime, at least try a new manager before you blow it up. Because quite frankly, this is a bit of a mess. Hey, let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time, that's where you got to go if you want to get tickets, because there's so many great sporting events. I'm in Southern California right now, and Dodger tickets are not the easiest tickets to get. And if I wanted to go check them out, I don't trust to go to some of the normal sites. I'd want to go to Game Time and to make sure I get all my options right. I want to see where I'm sitting. I want to know I have some guarantees in case things go south for me. I want and I want to make sure I'm getting the best deals. Game Time, that's an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, which is really, really convenient for those of us who get stuck in traffic on the way to Dodger Stadium. They got killer last minute deals, all in prices, and most importantly, views from the seat. And they have the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And if you need your last minute details, you get 60% off buying last minute for sports, but also for concerts, for comedy, for theater. And you could save even more with your zone deals. We could choose a section and let Game Time fill out the deals. You get seat views. This is my favorite part of it. You want to make sure you're sitting in the right area. And I like a certain kind of view. My favorite place is to sit not field level, but like the next level up, more along the first base line, especially if you're going to Dodger Stadium and you got that great view and the sun setting in just the right way, you can do that. You can make sure you're getting the right view. You get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Do you know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. They're guaranteed. Hey, where are you going to get all of your sports news and takes and the whole encompassing view of the world of sports? Covering the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and falling down on the ski jump. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Hey, Blue Jays fans, in case you're wondering if I'm just picking on you, I am not. Because guess what? Another bird can't fly, and that's the St. Louis Cardinals. And the Cardinals are a fascinating mess to me because, well, there's no reason why they shouldn't be in first place. None. The Milwaukee Brewers got rid of their star manager. The Milwaukee Brewers traded away their ace pitcher. And as of this recording, they're in first place by themselves. The Chicago Cubs looked like the only team that was going for it this year. They acquired Imanaga, who's turned out to be a very, very solid acquisition. Jameson Taillon has turned out to be a terrific addition to their team, as is Hector Neris. But you take a look at their team, and it's not a superstar-filled team. And you look at their lineup, and their lineup is and one of our listeners out there says, Chris Bonner says, as a Cub fan, we will take any bullpen pieces they want to sell off. They're referring to the Toronto Blue Jays, because while I really like Christopher Morel and I like their rotation, Neris has been up and down. Mark Leiter has been good, but their bullpen is just riddled with injuries. But now they're in second place. The Pirates and the Reds have talent, but it's not coming together. And the Reds are floundering right now. And that means you have the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, if you take a look at their team, at least for recognizable names, you have your Arenados, you have your Goldschmidts, you have the likes of Sonny Gray and Kyle Gibson and Miles Michaelis and Lance Lynn. You would think, and of course, this is a team that had home field advantage in the playoffs, as you have to go all the way back to 2022, just a couple of years removed from that. And you can say, okay, last year was a lousy year. Okay, maybe that's a fluke. And you look at the Cardinals in the Cardinal way, and now you realize, wow, they're bad. They're just bad. They're bad in so many ways. Sonny Gray has been a fine pickup, and he's pitched well for them. Lance Lynn's been, nothing great. Their bullpen, say for Helsley, is not good, has not been pitching well, and their lineup is oddly anemic. Alec Burleson's had a couple of big nights, fine. Remember when Lars Nootbaar was going to be a great player, or at least a fan favorite? He's been stinking it up right now. Brendan Donovan has been, he's driven in some runs, but he's been up and down. Nolan Arenado still playing great defense, but he's provided virtually no pop and not been the offensive player he wants to be. And Paul Goldschmidt has been bad. He's got a couple big hits recently, fine, but he's not been who they wanted. And Contreras is injured. And again, any article you read about teams that are maybe selling, and with the wild card so wide open. There's going to be a lot more, buyers than sellers. So if you are the Blue Jays or you are the Cardinals, you could probably get more than you normally would for some trade pieces. But my God, we're already talking about the Cardinals trading away players. And this is not long after dealing away Gallen, dealing away Alcantara, dealing away Arozarena, dealing away Garcia, and having Oliver Marmol, their new manager. Remember they fired Schilt after he basically managed the team with a brilliant September in 2021 to a playoff spot, and they got to this close away from eliminating the Dodgers in the postseason. They sent him packing. And Oliver Marmol, who they played well his first year, but he seems to be rubbing everybody the wrong way. And it clearly isn't working. And, I mean, Marmol's not doing a great job as manager, but Mozeliak has turned the Cardinals from, hey, they're probably going to win a pennant almost every other year to, nope, they can't even contend in an expanded playoff. And let me ask you something about St. Lou, okay? I think there's a better chance Toronto could be a playoff team. And they're talking about trading away all their players. But who's ahead of the Blue Jays? Tampa is flawed. The Red Sox are flawed. You got the Royals and the Twins, and they're good but not perfect. And the Rangers are good but not perfect. And maybe the Astros can make a run, but there's a lot of good but not perfect teams. And a team filled with stars like Toronto could respond well to a new manager and take off. You got the Phillies and the Braves in the East. You have the Brewers and the Cubs in the Central. You have Los Angeles and San Diego in the West. And I can all but guarantee you St. Louis is not going to be better than any of those teams. St. Louis is sunk. And I made this point a few weeks ago as well. The Cardinals have to get rid of Mozeliak because, and I am not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and I don't even care anymore. I should have had it written phonetically on a Post-it note on my screen. But the fact of the matter is, bad trade after bad trade, bad manager decision after bad manager decision, and you're going to trust him to trade and rebuild after he has given away so many wonderful players. He's been a Johnny Appleseed of at least ALCS MVPs out there. And if Zach Gallen ever wins a Cy Young Award, he would have traded away 2 Cy Young Award winners in the same trade. You're going to trust him to rebuild this squad? It's a shame that these two teams, who should be big-time contenders, are going to wet the proverbial bed. But that's exactly what's going to happen. And I can barely understand why this happened, but they have to make a change very soon because this is a potential disaster. And this current management of both sides caused the disaster. So you can't trust them to fix this. We come back, I'm going to talk about this being the anniversary of a strange moment that should give hope for the, beleaguered and helpless franchises of today. Hey, let's talk to our friends over at FanDuel. This is such a great time to be a sports fan. You got the NBA playoffs going on. You got the Stanley Cup playoffs going on. You got Major League Baseball in full swing, and it's going to be summertime soon. And this is the time that FanDuel is going to give you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, this is a quick reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports streaming channel, and it's available on YouTube, and now it's available on the free Amazon Fire TV and the free TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV's channel app. Chances are you are hearing this on the 16th of May, uh, 2024. And this is a couple of days after my birthday. So, by the way, thanks so much for those of you who uh, wished me a happy birthday. It was deeply appreciated. It is the birthday of Jack Morris, Minnesota Twins. Well, he was 1 year playing for the Minnesota Twins, but what a year it was. And then the late Billy Martin. It would have been his birthday, and he has a couple of connections to the Minnesota Twins. He finished his career because he mainly played with the Yankees, but at the end of his career, he got traded like every other minute. And he finished his career as a member of the Twins, later became a coach for the Twins and a manager, led the Twins to the playoffs before bouncing around as a manager, remembered mainly for the Yankees. But on this day in 1984, an interesting thing happened. The Twins were playing in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. This was only I think their second or third season at the Metrodome. And what a weird place that always was to play. The year was 1984. The Minnesota Twins were they were a 500 team, but they were drawing poorly. They had the second worst attendance in the American League and drew less than 1 million fans in 1983 in just their third year at the Metrodome. But on this day, May 16th, 1984, the Twins sold 51,000 tickets to see them lose to the Toronto Blue Jays. And so that must have been an amazing day at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome with a jam-packed 51,000. Wait, what? That was how many tickets they sold. But fewer than 7,000 were in the stadium. So what happened? Why did they sell so many tickets, but nearly 45,000 people had tickets who didn't show up? Well, at the time, in the mid-'80s, it looked like the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome was not going to solve anything for the Twins. They were drawing badly. They were not a competitive team. They hadn't been to the postseason since 1970. And they were a bit of an afterthought. And there were wide open markets. Remember, there was no team in Denver at this time. There was no team in Florida. There was no team in Phoenix at that time. And a couple of cities were beckoning, come to us, Minnesota, come to us, come to us. Orlando stuck their neck out. Miami stuck their, all these different cities, even Sacramento stuck their neck out at one point. And the Twins, if they did not sell a certain number of tickets, then the Twins would be able to break their lease from the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. There was a certain threshold they needed to make. And believe me, it was in the millions. And a businessman named Harvey McKay, who was a Minneapolis businessman who didn't want to see the Twins leave, saw there was a family day promotion, where there was reduced prices of the tickets. And he bought out all these tickets. He bought out the 45,000 remaining seats. So only 6,000 showed up, but the Twins sold every ticket. And it was part of the push that ultimately led to talk of going away, Carl Pohlad buying the team from the Griffith family that had owned it since they were the Washington Senators. And then in 87, to everyone's amazement, the Twins won the division and ultimately won probably the strangest World Series ever played. The next year, they drew 3 million fans. In 1991, they won another World Series. They drew 2.4 million. But then the strike hit, and the Twins' fortunes fell, and they suddenly went back to being one of the worst drawing teams in baseball. And there was rumors after 2001 that they were going to be contracted, but that was a bunch of baloney. There was no way Major League Baseball would have contracted anything. That was just more Bud Selig nonsense. But even after winning those two championships and the post-strike years when the Twins just couldn't draw and they came to this close to going to North Carolina. There was the rumors of them being contracted. It wasn't going to happen. But the Twins just looked like they were the poster child for a doomed franchise. Then they started playing well again. They started getting back in the postseason. They couldn't win a pennant, but they could continue to, be a contender. And they started putting money into the team. And then by 2005, they were drawing $2 million a year. And ultimately, they broke ground. And in 2010, they opened Target Field. And now, year in and year out, they draw around 2 million fans. So a couple of years they drew 3 million. A couple of times they fell just below the 2 million threshold. But most of the time they're drawing around 2 million fans. And that's about league average. And they're playing in Target Field, and you've seen their payroll go up, and you've seen that they consistently, while they don't win pennants, they're consistently in the postseason. They're probably going to be a playoff team again this year, and they consistently have a decent payroll and draw a good crowd in a beautiful new ballpark. And this was the absolute poster child for doomed franchises. So if you're a Rays fan or a Marlins fan or an A's fan or an Angels fan or a White Sox fan, and you're hearing all sorts of doom and gloom about your team and how it can't work, the Twins are still in Minnesota. It turns out it did work. It takes effort, good management, a good ballpark, and investing in your team. But if the Twins can do it with the rumors of contraction and the rumors of moving and a businessman back in 1984 having to buy out the joint, then your team can do it too. So, let's talk about the trivia question for today. It is Billy Martin related. Billy Martin played for many different teams after the Yankees got rid of him, and he managed several different teams. He managed the Twins, the Tigers, the Rangers, the Yankees, the A's, and he bounced around between the Tigers as a player. After his years with the Yankees, he bounced between the Tigers and the Twins and a couple other teams. And along the way, he was always an American League guy, except one year he played 6 games, just 6 games in his last year as a player. He played 6 games for a National League team. What was the National League team that Billy Martin played 6 games for? That's your trivia question. Put it down here at yes, was it him who beat up a salesman? Yes. Billy Martin got in a fight with a marshmallow salesman that led to his firing after the 1979 season. That he was fired by the Yankees, was picked up by the A's. Good catch there. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm Pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. I'm going a little long tonight. Going to wrap it up talking about 2 birds that cannot fly. This has been Locked On MLB for the 16th day of May, 2024. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Wrong button. Doing it live. Wrong button. Feeling alive.